Next game up on the docket is Tennessee versus Arkansas. I would be shocked if we don't agree on this one. Tennessee's get favored by 13.5 points, so Arkansas is getting 13.5. The over-under here is 50. Tennessee coming off the bye, and offensively, 49 points per game, second in the country, 515 yards, fifth in the country, yards per play, 6.9, 18th in the country. Rush yards, 5.7, which is 15th in the country. Passing yards per play, 10, which is 9th in the country, and they only allow the quarterback to be sacked 5.48% of the time, which is 61st in the country. On defense, this is where the biggest improvements have been made. Opponent points per game, 8.3, third in the country. Opponent yards per game, 159, first in the country. Opponent yards per play is 2.8. That is first in the country. Yards per rush is 1.4. That is first in the country. Opponent yards per pass is 4.8. That is sixth in the country. And then this, I honestly thought would be a little bit higher at this point in the season. Sack percentage, they're getting to the quarterback 7.69% of the dropbacks, which is 41st in the country. So not as good there as I thought, but literally like top 15 in every other statistical category on offense and defense, which is insane. Almost top 10, I believe, actually in everyone. Arkansas on offense, 27.3 points per game, which is 65th. Yards per play, 5.5, which is 61st. Yards per rush is 4.6, which is 51st. Yards per pass, 7.1, which is 68th. On defense, opponent points per game, 25.3, 65th. Opponent yards per play, 5.5, 63rd. Opponent yards per rush, 3.7, 42nd. Opponent yards per pass, 7.4, 72nd in the country. They only get to the quarterback 4.2% of the time. That is 98th in the country. To me, this looks like I just don't understand how this is only 14. This is a complete mismatch. Arkansas at best has an average defense. At best, they have an average offense. And Tennessee, I think, is legitimately a top 10 offense with a top 15 defense. So how do you think this one shakes out?
Well, I got to give credit where credit is due. I thought Arkansas's defense wasn't very good, and then they kind of surprised me in that Texas A&M game. Their defensive front is actually pretty darn good. Landon Jackson, he had a real good game. He had his first sack of the season against Texas A&M, so I guess you can point to that. Oh, I mean, I feel like sacks are kind of skewed, especially nowadays, but I won't get into that. Arkansas's defense is actually relatively solid. I'll give credit where credit is due. They got really veteran DB in Hudson Clark as well. He can make those checks. I think that's their green dot guy. And then Landon Jackson, he's really, really good. Their interior defensive line is much better than what people thought. Arkansas should be 5-0. They should have beaten Oklahoma State, and they outplayed Texas A&M for almost 4 quarters. They kind of just once again, this is what Arkansas does. Sam Pittman, this is just what his career at Arkansas has been, giving away games as best as possible. That's just how they've been. I actually disagree. I think Arkansas will compete in this game. I said this all offseason. Arkansas was my team that I thought would kind of surprise some people, in which they would go 7-5, but they would pull a huge upset. This has potential to be that upset. Arkansas's front seven can compete against Tennessee's rush attack. They did a real solid job against Texas A&M, really for all 3 quarters until the 4th quarter, in which they were worn out. But the difference is Tennessee is just a much better team than Texas A&M. Let's just be real here. This is also a night game. I was going back and forth on this. I'm not going to take Arkansas outright, but I actually think they'll cover. I actually think this is going to be a closer game. This is a trap game for Tennessee. And Tennessee fans were arguing with me about this earlier this season. Well, no way. We had a bye. We had a bye week before we play Arkansas. They play Texas A&M. They always lose to Texas A&M. So I actually disagree. I think this is a trap game. This Arkansas team is a pretty physical team. They're a lot more physical than I thought. And oh, by the way, Taylon Green, if he can limit these dumb turnovers, this team could easily be 5-0, but they can easily win this game. This is a very solid Arkansas team. I like Tennessee to win in the end, something like 30-20. I'll go 31-20. Tennessee on the road gets it done late in the 4th quarter. Sampson's going to be a little bit too much. I think they'll wear down Arkansas. But I'm telling you, I like this Arkansas team. I think they're much better than what people think.
Yeah, I don't think they're bad, but you hit on the point. I just think Taylor Green's going to make too many
Yeah.
mistakes. I just don't trust him. Like he has talent and it shows up, but then there's games like the Oklahoma State game where they should have won and he kind of throws some passes he shouldn't have or makes stupid mistakes that he shouldn't have. Did the same thing in the Texas A&M game, and you're
And
doing
Auburn.
that like yeah. So you're going to have to do like he's going to have to play his best game he's played in a college uniform. That's what's going to have to happen for them to win this game. I just don't see that happening. I would agree with you. Overall, I think Arkansas has definitely been a solid football team. But this is by far the best team they played. Like Oklahoma State, let's be real, is probably like the 40th best team in the country. And they completely blew that game versus them. And then Texas A&M, only because of the schedule, I'm even considering them in the playoff race. If they had like the Georgia schedule, I wouldn't consider it at all. I just think Tennessee goes and dominates. And you said the bye week does matter, but I do think it matters that Arkansas is coming off an emotional rivalry game, and then they play at Tennessee. I just think that's hard to get back up for. So I think Tennessee, I think they're going to win rather easily. I think it's going to be 34-17. So I would take Tennessee covering. I would also take the over here. To me, like I said, the only way Taylor Green's going to have, like, I don't know if anyone, I'm sure you do, Tyler, the Zach Calzada performance that he had versus Alabama when he had like a lights out performance that he never had again. That's what's going to take from Taylor Green. If he doesn't have that, they are not winning this football game.
He just has a lot of talent. I love him. I feel like, though, if he comes back next year, and some other pieces as well, as they get to 6-6 next year, Arkansas could be a legit playoff team. That's how good they could potentially, but let's not talk about next year. I think Arkansas is going to. I think they might be able to run a little bit more on Tennessee than what people are expecting. Quinton Jackson is probably the best running back in the SEC. He's insane. And oh, by the way, they got some really good wide receivers, which could open up that run game. So I actually think this is good. This is going to be an interesting matchup. And oh, by the way, it's a night game in Fayetteville. So I'm actually excited for this game. This is going to be a fun one, in my opinion.
Is Andrew Armstrong playing? I thought he was nicked up. Do you know?
Yeah, I know he's nicked up, but he's just been toughing it out. He shouldn't have, in my opinion, I don't think he should have played in that second half against Texas A&M. He did, and he still made plays. He's yet to catch a receiving TD, but that's kind of what Arkansas is. They get down to the red zone, they're just going to run the ball with number 10 or number 22. But I think he's I think he might be out. I think he's either a game time decision or out, which that doesn't really help you out. But I don't. He probably needs some rest, in my total opinion. But he also played in the Texas A&M second half. I mean, this guy's been taking a lot of shots. You go back to the Auburn game, the very first play he's getting taken out by an Auburn DB. So he's been, and that's another point you could make. Well, they play two physical teams in a row. How much left do they have in the tank? They kind of need, this is a point where Arkansas does need that bye week. But I'm giving Sam Pittman a lot of benefit of the doubt. I mean, just look what he did last year against LSU. This after losing to BYU at home in an embarrassment. They come and compete. They also played Alabama very, very close. They played Ole Miss very, very close a couple of years ago. That's just what they do. He just can't finish it in the end. And that's why I think Tennessee wins for sure, but I do think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to watch it for sure. It's going to be a really good game to watch. I like when Texas, I didn't like the result, but they have really good fans down there in Arkansas and Fayetteville, and that was a fun game to watch with the atmosphere and everything.